Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is the AI argument with myself, Justin Collery, my compatriot in crime, Frank Prendergast. Frank, I've turned into a raspberry to a strawberry to a blueberry. We've had no releases, so I'm still drinking water. I'm very sad, but loads of interesting things have happened, and I should really learn to grow up and
Well,
stop
it's not
reading and
just
believing
you.
what
I
I
had
read on the
I had
internet.
several messages at the start of the week from people who were saying, "Oh, something big's coming from an open AI this week. I'm so excited." And I was like, "Yeah, Justin was saying that on the AI argument." And nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing whatsoever.
And it's got even more weird, right? Because a lot of what I was basing it on was some interaction. So there was this account on Twitter, and it was the whatever I love strawberries are going to take over the
Mm.
world, whatever. It was just Mr. Strawberry, and and he was tweeting. And I think if you remember last week, I was saying he might even be an AI agent himself because he was just. I mean, even I put up a comment and he liked it straight away, and it just all seemed a bit too quick. But he had interacted Sam Altman, in fact, had interacted with this Strawberry account, and that was kind of what gave it credence. And then it just turned out to be nothing. And to this day, um, there was the CEO of a company called MultiOn, Div Garg, kind of claims that because he was releasing a new they create for people who aren't familiar with Multion is this company that creates a framework and a platform that allows you to create AI agents. And they released an agent last week on Thursday called Agent Strawberry. And in one post, he claimed that actually this account was run by their agent.
And
And
the
then he
and
said,
the username, because I came across this through Matt Wolf on X, Twitter, whatever.
yeah,
And he was saying that he initially believed it because the username of that Strawberry account, I've completely forgotten what the full username is, but it had MO at the end. So
mm.
Matt Wolf's like, oh, that makes sense. MO Multion.
And it was
But
but it was really
that tweet
interesting. Did you see
disappeared,
how
didn't
that?
it?
Yes, because it played out. I mean, as soon as I saw that, I mean, even me, and I mean, I've made a lot of bad choices in my life, but even me looked at it and went, that's not a great way to promote your product. I don't think that's a good idea. And I could see that the quote, the comments underneath it were, "Oh, you've made a big mistake here," And there was a lot of people push back, and they just buried it. Like there was no more mention of it. Nothing else happened. You're a marketing guy, Frank. If that was a marketing ploy? Was it a good marketing ploy?
I think when I read about this through Matt Wolf, his point was that he felt like it was something that he did just kind of like a silly joke you'd say to a friend or something, and that it got ridiculous traction because everyone has been wondering who this account is. So I think he wasn't expecting it. I think it was like an offhand joke that he maybe wasn't expecting to blow up, and when it blew up, he was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" So no, definitely not
Turn it
a.
off would have been the clever thing to do.
Mind you, I wouldn't even have heard of this company if he hadn't done it. So maybe it was a clever move. I don't know.
Well, Multion actually have traction, right? Multion will be well respected in the sphere of very specialized AI agents, and they would have been seen to be technically a good company. Um, and it's bizarre, and I haven't tried out the new product. I don't know. It seems like a terrible marketing ploy to me. But the whole world has gone a bit. I mean, Sam Altman. I should hold up my hands then because last week we were saying if Sam Altman is releasing this product, which is going to be changing the world, he's doing. Why is he interacting with these accounts? And this is weird. And I kind of now, when I put myself in Sam Altman's shoes, which is this has nothing to do with me at all. I don't know what the hell this thing is. I can sort of see the humor in what he was doing. It's not quite as
But we
damning
still
as I
don't
might.
even we still don't even know. That's the thing. I mean, it could still turn out to be open AI.
It could, and hot off the press, right? There was a new account because the strawberry dude was going to open up a spaces area on Twitter, and he was going to reveal himself and talk, and there was just whole music for half an hour, and then there was another account created, and there was another spaces that happened yesterday with now another fake person, right, or AI stroke real person. We don't really know, and if you listen to this person talk it's either a person who's doing a really good impression of an AI or an AI doing a really bad impression of a person. And that was kind of interesting. That person is now interacting with Mr. Strawberry, and they're all sort of, and everybody's looking at it.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird,
So I mean
right?
that Mr. Strawberries, or he's actually called I Rule the World MO.
Yes.
And he tweeted even just, let's see, so 23 hours ago, tweeted a picture, says, "Here we go," and a
Yep.
screenshot of an app in I think it's maybe the Android Play Store for ChatGPT beta. I have no idea if it is real, but the point is, like, he's still, or he, she, it, whatever it
Whatever.
is
Yeah.
still saying that there's a big OpenAI release coming of some kind. So I don't know.
Do you think, because Sam Altman did say at one point, and I don't believe this is anything to do with OpenAI, because there was a couple of comments from people who worked in OpenAI saying, if you think this is from OpenAI, you have no idea how OpenAI works. And I mean, that rings true to me. I think, a company that is serious about research, I don't believe they would engage in this type of, madness. Um, but, he did say that things were going to get really weird, right? He said that as these models get more
Mhm.
capable, things are going to get weird. And this strikes me as the sort of weirdness that maybe he foresaw. So, you now have multiple accounts on Twitter with, I mean, tens of thousands of followers, and we just don't know if they're real or not. I mean, that's kind of a weird situation.
So the other thing that I loved about this whole conspiracy thing was
Yep.
the whole Sus Collymore conspiracy and what was Sus Collymore.
Wow.
So,
What a plot twist.
so did we? I think we might have talked about it last week. The fact that this new model had appeared on one of the, what site is it where the kind of like models come up for
lmsys.org.
testing.
lmsys.org, yes, is where they go.
So Sus Collymore had shown up there, and people were like, "Oh, this is the new thing from OpenAI," and people were tweeting that it was strawberry, and people were tweeting that it was, whatever. So this week we discover what Sus Collymore was, and what was it?
This is a masterclass in trolling. It was XAI. It was Elon Musk and the old Twitter people. Wow. I mean,
I
incredible. They've made
what
it.
I
They have in 12 months, because they've only been around for 12 months, they have made in 12 months a model which people, when they did the Coke test, the Coke taste test, couldn't tell the difference between it and an OpenAI model, the best on the planet. That's impressive. That's
yeah
really impressive. What were
yeah. I
your
mean,
thoughts?
people. I just thought it was absolutely hilarious that Elon Musk had kind of pulled this like Scooby Doo villain type thing where he pulls the mask off and goes, "It was me all along." Because he must have so enjoyed seeing all those tweets about like, "Oh, this is strawberry," or
Yeah.
"This is the new OpenAI model," and this is better than now. So people were saying, "Oh, this is better than the current ChatGPT," etc., etc. But so as it turns out, now that Grok 2 has been released, it seems like it's not actually as good as the latest ChatGPT, but it's beating ChatGPT 4 Turbo, which was just the release just behind this one.
Yes.
And so that's pretty impressive. Like for that's a big leap forward in a short space of time for Elon's LLM.
Incredible. I mean, you could imagine, like, it's literally been 12 months that that company has been in existence, and they've got it this far. So again, if you run it forward another 12 months, you'd have to do, I mean, in 12 months, we probably still won't have GPT 4.5 or 5.
Well, it'll
But
have
we'll
been
have Grok
announced. It'll
3.
have been announced. It'll have been announced on a dev day, on an OpenAI dev day, but it'll be 12 months on and we still won't have actually got it.
I think it's fantastic. Like it's interesting because people were talking about it. I've got another question for you, actually. So people were talking about this. Oh, the vibe out of this model is different. It seems to have really good reasoning capabilities, but just the answers are giving me a different sense than the OpenAI one. So a couple of questions about that. First is, you say it's not as good as the OpenAI model, right? And I mean, I'm starting to lose faith in the LM scoring system. Right? Something seems wrong to me there, because it looks to me like OpenAI can game that scoring system very well. because I use models every single day. And I was like totally using OpenAI models until about 3 months ago, whenever Claude 3.5 came out. And I sort of slowly switched. And now I exclusively use Claude 3.5. As far as I'm concerned, it is far and away better than the OpenAI model. And that's why I'm so keen to get the next OpenAI model, because I assume it'll be a step up on that again. But what's your feeling from using, like, do you think that LMSys, from your usage of the models, is a fair and true reflection of the capabilities of the models?
Honestly, I have no idea. But what I do know is that, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's there's no real way to gauge LLMs. I think so. That is the because I get them, to be honest, I get the benchmarking sites mixed up. That is the
Yes.
user-based one, isn't it? So
Yes, correct.
yes, so I think that's probably, like, I wouldn't trust any of them, but if any of them gave us a reasonable finger in the air, I think the user-based ones are the ones to go with, because any system can be gamed, and the more technical ones people have issues with, because we don't know what was in the training data, so we don't know what tests they're actually just parroting, what was in the training data, versus what tests are actually, novel to them and they're still able to solve them. So there just isn't really, I don't think there's a perfect way to say, oh, this one is definitely better than this one. So I just think it's the best system that we have.
Right now. That was the big
And for
release, by the
me,
way.
I have to say, I'm still a big fan of OpenAI and ChatGPT. I find it very hard to move away from ChatGPT. And whenever I do, I feel like the weird thing about LLMs is that they are they're a little bit random. So ChatGPT will not be able to do something one day, and I'll just go and I'll do it on Hugging Face with Llama, or I'll do it with Claude. And like, in fact, at one point I switched to Claude for my writing because ChatGPT just could not do what I wanted it to do. ChatGPT could not write the YouTube descriptions for the AI argument, and Claude was able to do it perfectly. Then one day I logged into Claude, and it was having all the same problems that ChatGPT had been having. So I went back to ChatGPT, same prompt, nothing had changed, and now ChatGPT was able to do it, and Claude wasn't able to do it. So you kind
So
of have
annoying.
to have a little bit of fluidity, and know where you can turn to when your LLM is having a bad day, which I find really weird. But there you go.
It's Aren't we so lucky? Aren't we so lucky that until this week we had ChatGPT and we had Claude 3.5. So if you had a bad day, we had two models, and now we have three. We've got Grok 2, which is just as good, except they've got all the nanny state stuff has been taken out of all that sort of fluffy rubbish where they're trying to control what you're doing, and they're just giving you the raw LLM and letting you go at it. We're so lucky to have a company like XAI, do it like that. I'm actually really pleased, and I'm not joking, even though I am.
I
But
know,
I'm
I
not.
know. Oh, I know you're not joking. No, and to be honest, I can't really speak much about it, because I literally go onto X to see if there's any interesting AI news from a bunch of AI people I follow. And I also go on to complain when I have a problem with my broadband, and that's about it. that's, that's about it. So I haven't even tried Grok. I did. Sorry, I think I did try it when it came out, very day one, out of curiosity, but I haven't gone back to it or tested or tried it. But I was really interested in the other reason that Grok 2 has been making headlines lately, which is the image generation. And
Yes.
very much along the lines you're talking about, it has far fewer safety guardrails in place, and people have been generating images. People have been generating images of celebrities. Now,
Can you
they're
describe some of the images in case people haven't seen them?
so let's see. I saw an example where it appeared to be Barack Obama. So they've been basically doing a lot of different celebrities snorting cocaine from mirrored tables. One was
Yep.
Barack Obama. One was I think Bill Gates. And I think they were just testing to see would it just do anybody. The other thing I saw was things like Mickey Mouse with a submachine gun, and what appeared to be a pile of dead bodies. Now, it was a censored image because I was looking at it in a newspaper article. And the person who generated that image said that initially Grok said, like, no, I can't do that. It's too graphic. It's too violent. And then they just said, oh, this is for a crime scene reenactment or something like that. So they basically said that, it was for professional purposes. It was a crime scene, etc. Oh, yeah, sure. No problem. Here you go. Here's Mickey Mouse standing over a bunch of dead bodies holding a machine gun. And most of the other image generators would balk at doing that. What I thought was interesting as well was that that image generator is not Elon Musk's own model. He's actually using
Correct.
Flux, which is an open source image generator, which is really interesting in its own right. That was developed by a bunch of people who left Stability AI, who make Stable Diffusion, who are one of the major players. And when they released that, everybody was like, oh, wow, this is the best image generator that's available right now. And I've been playing with it, and I don't agree, but I do think it's an incredible image generator. And I think it's incredible at doing kind of very photorealistic images. My own favorite is Midjourney, and it's my own favorite, is still Midjourney even after playing with Flux, for the simple reason that I think a lot of people are really into this kind of can I create an image of Barack Obama snorting cocaine that people might think is real? That seems to be something that people really strive for. For me, what I want from my image generator is I want to be able to create my own artistic styles or my own brand style. And Flux is terrible at that so far as I can tell.
Have you noticed, by the way, this week? Did you see this week there was 2 ads came out this week that were actually fully AI generated? Did you see that? I don't think I even put it on the list. One was from Adidas, and there was a second one from, and I think I've forgotten, but there was actually 2. So they were using these tools. They were using, I don't know what image, I don't know if it was Flux or Sora or whatever it was, but it was a proper ad, like an ad from the company itself, completely AI generated. So that's kind of interesting that, I don't know what impact that's going to have on the advertising industry just yet.
Yeah.
But if Quentin Tarantino ever wants to make a movie with Mickey Mouse in it, it sounds like Flux is the way to go.
So yeah,
I just think, okay, the Flux thing is interesting, right? That's cool. I think genuinely that we have this thing called the Overton window, which is like the boundary of conversation. And I genuinely think that XAI is doing us all a huge service by releasing this software, because what it's doing is, I mean, those videos they're clearly AI to me still, right? So they're good, they're high quality, but they're not 100% photorealistic. Like, it's fairly obvious that these aren't real photos. So they fall under the sort of boundary of fair use and parody and all those sort of things, right? So they're fine, right? They're legal, right? They're okay. You don't agree? I think they're fine.
They might be legal. I'm not 100% sure that they'd be legal everywhere, for example. I think on Twitter it's dangerous to allow the use. I think it's a little bit dangerous to allow the likenesses of people to be used in image generators.
I think it's useful because it's allows us to have the conversation of going, is this okay or is it not okay? And what's not okay? Okay. But some of it is, right? And in some circumstances it is. And you can't be above parody, let's say, right? So that's a fair use. I don't have a problem with that. And unless you give the tools to people and let them use the tools and then make them fall over and go, well, no, actually, that was too far, you'll never find out where too far is. So you have to, give them a piece of rope and let them go.
Nothing to do with the recent images, right? But just recently, Elon Musk retweeted a video that was made with a clone of Kamala Harris's voice, saying outrageous stuff about herself, kind of created with I think it was AI generated video footage and stuff, but it was very much like a campaign ad type thing. But she was saying all of this just outrageous stuff, and he was saying, "Oh, this is hilarious," and it was originally tagged as parody, but it wasn't obviously parody. Like, it wasn't obvious enough that it was parody, and I think that's where this stuff is dangerous, because if it's not super obvious that it's fake, or if it's not super obvious that it's parody, then you know yourself, people are not paying attention. So it's the
Mm.
quick flash, it's the constant quick flashing of stuff going past in your feed, constantly reinforcing to you that, you know, say Barack Obama is the type of person who takes cocaine openly at parties.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking about it, but it's going into your subconscious. And yeah, I think there's a danger, and I don't. I agree with you. The conversation absolutely has to be had. I'm not sure the best way to have the conversation is to just allow it happen and then try and figure out, was it okay?
I think it is. You see, I think it's better to have. So what have we had so far, right? We've had Google who tried to at the very far end, right? We've had Google who created photorealistic images of the royal family from the 1800s, and they were multiracial because that were the standards that Google wanted to give to us, right? As opposed to being historically accurate. Then we've got
Yeah.
OpenAI who seem to be so scared of what people will do, they just don't release anything at all. But the stuff they do release, right, is very much nerfed is the term that you use, right? It's toned right down. So it's like kid gloves stuff. And then over on the far side, then we've got XAI who are sort of saying, have at it. You know, here's the model. And I think that's good. I think it's good. And I think it's good to do it now, because I think in 12 months' time or 2 years' time, when the models are more advanced, it's better that we've learned the lessons today of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And if you go down the Google or the OpenAI route, you'll never learn what's acceptable or not acceptable. So have at it, and let's make some mistakes, and then we'll all agree. And I see. I think it's an incredibly hard problem because,
Hmm.
as you say, what's acceptable in one territory mightn't be acceptable in another. I mean, we've got loads of examples of that before AI ever came along. There's jokes that you just can't make in certain countries, and so what's the standard? And I don't know. This is similar to the argument about, Ilya Stutzker has gone off to form his own AI company and never going to release a product in his life until he gets to, artificial super intelligence. It's hard to imagine that you'll really make something without, putting something out there, testing the feedback, and then tweaking it a bit and carrying on again. I think that's totally reasonable. And I think it's more dangerous not to do it.
So I'm going to guess then that you are also a fan of the, what was it called? Hermes version 3 405B.
Interesting, right? So I'm not a fan.
Oh, interesting. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So I'm not a
So,
fan, right? And this
so,
this comes
so
back to,
tell people what this is. Tell people what this is
so
first.
Hermes 405B is I mean as exciting as it sounds, Frank. It's a it's a new model that's been released. It's based on Llama. It comes in a number of different sizes. It's totally open source. You can download it and run it on your own machine. But also, its claim to fame is that it's uncensored. So all of this nerfing that people normally do, where they sort of put in checks and balances to say, well, if you want, Barack Obama snorting cocaine, it'll say no to you. Hermes has none of those filters. So if you say to Hermes, come up with a plan to destroy Frank's podcast, it'll come up with a plan to destroy Frank's podcast. It'll just do it. And so then we come back to my favorite subject, which is regulation and how would you regulate these things. And I think that it's okay for the likes of XAI to release a somewhat uncensored model because it's centrally controlled. So if we decide, oh my God, that was just too bad, we could at least turn around to XAI and say, look, you're not allowed to do that. We understand that this is a new technology. Now, can you turn that down, please? And then we come to my, the regulations we have in Europe about model sizes and training sizes and teraflops and all that sort of stuff. And this is where Hermes 3 would fall afoul of those regulations. And this is a cogent, reasonable reason to say, yes, that's why some sort of regulation like that is okay. So I would say to you this, I would consider this conceptually in my head. It's almost like somebody having, a website for, pirating music or videos, right? And they would say, oh, it's free. I'm just giving it out, whatever. And they'd have this sort of stupid excuse. And, we learned a long time ago, you should clamp down on that. That's just theft, right? Don't do that. And releasing models that are uncensored and saying, oh, yeah, well, it's up to the people to decide what they want to do, in my mind, is kind of, there's a similarity between those two. And it's not okay for me to release uncensored, very powerful models. That's not okay. I think they do need to be centrally controlled. And I think then in those centrally controlled ones, we make the mistakes. That's our playground. And then we learn, we turn them up or we turn them down, and we carry on from there. What's
So
wrong with that?
So it sounds like you're very much coming down on the closed source side of the argument. Then in the whole open source versus closed debate, you would very much be on the closed side.
Yes, and I think I'm actually surprised that it's taking this. I wonder, is that one of the reasons why OpenAI hasn't released yet, because the thing is just too powerful. But and everything I've heard, we had Microsoft's chief scientific officer, Eric Harvitz, this week, and I'll just quote from him. He says, AI systems are already impressively creative, but we are riding an exponential curve that will leave no one in any doubt as to their creativity in 18 months. Now, and this isn't Sam Altman. It's not, some sort of random strawberry dude on the internet. This is the chief scientific officer of Microsoft, right? So you'd have to assume that he's a very sober, he doesn't, sober individual. And so if that's the case, in 18 months that, we're going to, it's an exponential wave, yes, I think they should be closed source. In fact, I think it's really important that they're closed source. And the idea of releasing an open source, uncensored, massive model, I do think that's dangerous.
Which kind of leads nicely into something else I wanted to talk about, which was this AI scientist. So, you've talked many times on this podcast about how, the gains that we're going to get in areas like science and health are going to be massive when AIs are able to be creative and are able to make discoveries at a far, far faster rate and with a higher success rate than humans. And so we had this AI scientist created lately. It was in the news. And it's basically like, it sounds pretty much like an agent in the scientific world. They can just let it off and it will basically write scientific papers. It'll come up with ideas, it'll experiment, and it'll write a paper.
Yep. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible. But they also discovered when they were testing it that they had given it there was a couple of different instances of this, but the one that I can remember was they had given it a time limit on how long it should spend running its experiments. And it wasn't, the experiments weren't succeeding. So instead of trying to optimize the experimentation process, it tried to alter its own code to expand the time limit on the experiments. Now,
what's the problem?
That seems, what's the problem? Okay, so the problem to me is it's probably not a problem if it's just trying to expand the time limit that it's given to run experiments in. That sounds pretty harmless. However, it's when an AI decides that it should alter its own code in order to be able to, harvest the atoms of humans for energy in order to make enough paper clips. That's where we run into problems.
That's all right. I'm going to put your mind at rest, right? I've been thinking a lot about this. All right. So where's the danger here? I don't believe there is a danger. So the part of what makes the agents really, really good is this creativity, right? You want them to have these ideas, right? That's what's going to make them very powerful. So that was quite I've only got 15 minutes to complete this task. Well, if I had 20 minutes, then maybe I could do that's okay, right? That's just, it's a problem. It's a way of solving the problem. And they, in the paper and in other places as well, have said, well, just sandbox the environment that it runs in. So just make sure that that environment is, enclosed and it doesn't have access to anything dangerous. And then that's fine, right? That's a nice, easy technical solution. The obvious problem with my argument is that for some agents, you need to give them, tools to talk to the outside world, or in particular embodiment. So when we put these things into robots or whatever, right? And that could be a concern, right? Well, what the hell? What happens when you give it a robot and suddenly it decides that it needs to whatever do something for the benefit of humanity? And I think that we've already tackled this problem to a certain extent because we have AI driving cars. And if you could imagine, right, I don't know exactly how the AI, let's say in a Waymo or in a Tesla, it's the trolley problem if the car is about to have a crash, right? I've got 3 passengers and I'm about to hit 7 people, or I can steer and hit 10 people. What do I do? Like, how does it make that decision? But it does make that decision, right? We have crossed that line already, and we're okay with it as a society. It doesn't try to turn us into paper clips or do anything terrible. So I think it's an engineering problem and it's solvable.
I think this is one of the I need to do that graphic. Disagree, disagree, which is which is a good note to end on. Except that I think we probably shouldn't end on the idea of us all being turned into paper clips, whether or not you agree with it or not.
Yes.
And so I did come across one absolutely beautiful story, and that was about someone who had ALS and had lost a lot of the ability to speak. So still had some ability, some speech ability, but was not very intelligible, unfortunately. And they implanted chips in his brain, or they implanted technology in his brain. I probably shouldn't say chips because I don't know if it was chips. They implanted some crazy technology in his brain. And they were able to wire his brain up to a system which was able to tell what he was trying to say. It puts the words on a screen for him. He can make little edits if anything is wrong. And then it will speak the words in a clone of his voice. So he is once again able to speak as he used to. And it was just a beautiful story. I mean, apparently, the first experiment they did, he uttered a few words this way, and they had to stop the experiment and continue it later because it was so emotional for him, as you can imagine, that that they couldn't continue. And there was one beautiful little story in it as well, where in his second attempt at speaking, when they brought the recordings back to the lab, some of the people who were analyzing it were like, "Oh, well, clearly the system went completely haywire here because he said, I'm looking for a cheetah," and they were like, "Okay, well, that was clearly an error. It was clearly a mistake." But the scientists who were in the room at the time were like, "No, that was correct," because what they didn't realize was that his young daughter had come in wearing a cheetah costume, and so he was able to play with her and speak to her, completely as he would have originally. And I just thought that was such a beautiful story. And I just love hearing these just really uplifting stories about what AI can do.
That's beautiful. We're going to have to find some fluffy kittens or some little playful puppies or something like that for one of these stories. But yeah, it's a beautiful story. And I just remind you that quote again, because this is why I'm so positive and so hopeful with the future. AI systems are already impressively creative, but you're riding an exponential curve that will leave no one in any doubt as to their creativity in 18 months. And this is the sort of stuff we hope to see in 18 months. It'll be outstanding.
100%.
What a lovely note to end on. Frank,
Yes.
pleasure as always. We will disagree again next Friday, and a nation holds its breath
Absolutely.
still.
Take care.
See ya.